Welcome back to the second segment of NTV Exclusive. I'm your host, Abul Hasnath, and we've been talking about the rise of Trump and the West. And we've been looking at Trump since his inauguration and the madness that's been going on since. I mean, Elaine, my guest today, has been very modest in calling it a roller coaster. And I also have Adnan here with me, who's given us a detailed outlook of his relations across. This time round, I'm going to come straight over to you, Adnan, because let's talk about the executive order.
Well, in our first segment, we were talking about the Muslim ban, the executive order on Muslim ban. But I think what Donald Trump, what he's trying to do, he's trying to make his own supporters happy by signing few executive orders, what he knows that it's not possible practically. And many of his executive orders, the detail wasn't very clear. So, as you know that he's not a fact guy, he's not a guy who will study before he talks. So I think most of the scenario, he's just signing it for, to make a headline, in newspaper. But he himself, he doesn't know what he is signing about. And most of his executive orders, they were not quite clear. As for example, the Muslim ban, he's saying these are the 7 countries that do not share the vetting information with us. That's why we want to ban them, although there is controversy whether, all the attacks that happened after 9/11, whether the people that come from those particular countries or not. There's a big controversy about it. And how about the green card holders? So many green card holders, they were stopped at airport. And in many case scenario, the immigration officer or Homeland Security people, they were not quite clear what's in the executive order. So I think most of his executive orders, they are not in detail, they are not practical, they are not feasible, but he's just signing it to make the headline and to make his own voters happy. See, I made this promise, now I have done it. Now it's up to the, now it's up to the court. If the court blocks me, what can I do? So, I think most of his executive orders, they are not feasible, in terms of wall, in terms of Muslim ban, and they are not in detail.
Yeah. Well, let's say on that. If I come over to you, Elaine, because I mean, if we just look at general elections, generally, if I'm allowed to put it that way, let's put it in very layman's terms. You make a promise, then you go out there and deliver it.
Yeah, in very layman's terms, that is what you're supposed to do. So he shouldn't be surprising anyone, I suppose, in terms of what he's doing. The way that he's doing it is interesting. So he criticised Obama very much when he did executive orders, and Democrats used them very, very sparingly. And I think, I read a statistic which is, I think he's done more already than Obama did in his entire 8 years as president. And I think it goes back to the personality issue. As far as he is concerned, as president of the United States, he should be the most powerful man in the world, and therefore what he says goes. And so he doesn't care if it upsets the airport systems, that he hasn't clarified whether his executive order applies to green card carriers or not. He doesn't like a particular group of people, and so he doesn't want them in the country. And he seems to think that, he should be able to tweet, this is how it's going to be, and that should just be how it works. And actually we're seeing the same with when he said he was going to cancel NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. I think he tweeted that before there was
TPP
anything published.
Well. TPP as well. And
yes, TPP as well.
And
the Mexico Wall, all of it. It's just.
Do you know, in Wall Street, there the businessmen in America, they are planning to, introduce a new app so that those particular business people, they can get notification before that Donald Trump is gonna, tweet them, because when he was tweeting about Boeing. They lost, they lost their share, and he been tweeting about so many companies. So if President of America make a stand on a certain things, that matters, in terms of share market, that matters. So it's a.
But he loves that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. For his ego, someone going into the Oval Office and saying, because you said you were going to cancel the orders for the jets from Boeing, Boeing lost X many billions and dropped X in share price. he's not going to care. If anything, for him, he loves that, because then it reinforces this idea that he has so much power. He's probably got shares in Boeing somewhere along the line, and he doesn't realise how much damage he's doing to the American economy, to his own
to that particular
businesses,
company as well.
To so many people
that's
in
not
America.
very presidential, is it? I mean, that's not
No.
very presidential at all.
But it is very despotic,
Yeah.
and that's what we're really dealing with.
His campaign manager, one of his campaign manager took over his Twitter before the final election time, I think 1 week before, because he was going mad about everything. He has attacked Meryl Streep. I mean, what was that? There was no nicety at all. I mean, she's a very well-respected actress. She won so many Oscars, so many national awards. She, is a freedom of speech, a country that values freedom of speech. She can say, if she doesn't like a politician, she has all the right to say.
Yeah.
And then he immediately, he was tweeting about it, which is very unprecedented.
I want to bring in a name that's sort of slowly and sneakily crept through the carpet, I'm going to say. Steve Bannon. Adnan, let me start with you, please.
Well, I mean, I think there's a very popular program in America. It's called Saturday Live.
Yeah.
If you look into Saturday Live recent program, they made a very funny video that Donald Trump is having a very stressful long day. Now he wants to make some phone calls. I mean, he just wants to upset some people, and he's saying he has few family members in White House. They always try to keep him calm, that don't do any crazy stuff. So he's asking one of his senior assistant whether they are there or not. They said, no, they have left now. He said, now I can start doing crazy stuff. He said, call Steve Bannon. call Steve Bannon so that we can plan and start doing crazy stuff. And Steve Bannon...
The irony is that that's so close to the truth.
Yeah, it's truth.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look into Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, everyone sees him as a president. Everyone, if you look into TV, newspaper, everyone knows, everywhere in the entire world, they know him as president. But most of the stuffs, people think is coming from, I mean, when I say people think, those people are intellectual people. They are journalists or politicians or businessmen, those who are in this particular field for so many years. They think most of the stuff is coming from Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon, if you look into his personal life, Steve Bannon, he wasn't very happy the way Jimmy Carter used to run America. He was in Navy, then for so many years, he's been trying to organize that particular group of people who can actually, challenge the establishment, they call it. Now imagine people like Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, they have become establishment. And how dangerous. There is something called alternative fact. Alternative fact. Fact is fact. There is nothing called alternative fact. They have introduced alternative fact. So many of the controversial stuffs that came during his election campaign, that is coming right now from Donald Trump, so many people speculate that is coming from Steve Bannon, who is a very controversial figure in America and across the whole world. He been making so many comments which can be treated as racist, anti-Semitic, so many stuff. So Steve Bannon, he been organizing his people for so many years, and they know that Donald Trump, he been saying for so many years he wants to become U.S. president. So that he's the right sort of guy who will challenge the establishment. They don't care about what sort of president he will make. All they care about is to destroy the establishment, but they're destroying their own country.
We need to come back home because I think we need to look at Theresa May.
Yeah.
And obviously we touched on it briefly in the first segment, but I mean, no doubt disappointed in her approach towards this, Elaine.
Well, she seems to have just rolled over, and I think what we're seeing is the crossroads between Brexit and us triggering Article 50, and then Donald Trump being in the White House, but us still being desperate for a trade deal with America because we're about to pull ourselves out of the biggest single market that there is, and it's terrible to sit and watch what's going on, where she's questioned about the ban on Muslims and do you think it's okay, and she was asked 3 times, and every time she stood there and said, well, that's America's policy and it's America's issue, whereas actually her answer should have been, I don't know whether or not it's true, but if it is, actually that's not British values and we don't agree with that, and that's something that we'll take up. So she and her government have been incredibly weak. The state visit...
Is it weak or evasive? I mean, how do we look at this? Because some people comment and say, oh, very evasive.
I think it's weak. I think it's they don't actually know how to deal with it, so they don't have a plan. They're trying to keep him happy by inviting him on state visits, which now everyone, well, Tim Farron, the leader of the Lib Dems, has said he's not going. So Trump's going to end up in a big room having dinner, I think, with the Queen, if she doesn't suddenly get sick. And hopefully he won't be allowed to address Parliament. There are, Tower Hamlets as a borough, we've said we don't want him coming and visiting anything here. So he's not exactly going to be made to feel welcome. And they've just not understood the feeling in the country, I think. And, I'm, as a woman, considering what Donald Trump has said about women, I'm really offended that, that we're even entertaining the idea that he might come here on a state visit.
Let's look at Brexit, because, I mean, Trump obviously commented on expecting, and I said that in the first segment, the rest of Europe following the lines of Brexit. But, I mean, let's be real. I mean, Article 50 pretty much looking to be triggered. Where do we go from here once that does run, and how much is Trump going to poke his nose into this?
Well, I think, thank you for asking this question, actually. I think it's a very vital question. To be honest with you, I don't think there is any special relationship between UK and USA. It's all just saying special relationship. I think UK has become America's puppet. Let's just put it this way. And to be honest with you, we do not need to study. Rather, if we use our common sense, UK is smaller than California. Now, if you're producing a product, do you think they will care about UK or they will care about Europe, where you have such a huge chunk of consumers in one place? So Theresa May's visit, going back to Alan's point, Theresa May's visit to USA saying that we need to sort out a trade deal is not true. I mean, I'm not going to buy this sort of argument. And she herself as a woman, she could stand up for entire, women race. That, what you've been saying is not right. And then you need to be very, very conscious about Putin, about NATO, about European Union. This is one thing. And you asked me a question about Brexit. I think Britain will become a very fragile, a weak friend of America. And Donald Trump, he's been saying that he got very good relationship with UK because his mom is from Scotland, or I have business and all sort of stuff. But Donald Trump, if you listen to Donald Trump's inauguration speech, America first. That's what he said. He didn't say Britain second. He said America first. So that means America first. There is no special relationship. It's just a word. That's a buzzword. There is no special relationship. In terms of trade, Britain is not a big market for America. You have European Union just there with so many consumers, with so many business opportunity. So if you look into this matter as a statesman, if you look into this matter as a politician or as a conscious citizen or a businessman, I think Britain will become a fragile, weak friend of America. Britain could do so much. Britain could do so much in terms of making the NATO a powerful organization, in terms of making European Union a powerful, union. But I think there is less possibility at this moment. I mean, and also at the same time, you emphasized that she's not challenging. She said before she visited USA, she said, "I'll be challenging him when it comes to that point." But she's not challenging, rather. So Britain will become a fragile, weak friend of USA.
And how terrible that is that we say so many things on standing up, and yet it's nothing but weakness, right? I don't think we can leave this topic, even though we've got something else to talk about in the third segment. We're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue on Brexit. I need to get Elaine's view on that as well. And then we're going to come back localised, and let's look at what the effects are here in England, UK, at South East London, maybe even narrowing it down to Tower Hamlets and Newham and some of the more local areas that a lot of us represent. So don't go away. I'll see you very shortly.